Now, how is Catherine Gunn linked to the current global crisis? Actually, we can learn a lot about the current crisis from the super fascinating story of Mrs. Gunn. She was actually a British intelligence officer who worked for the Government Communications Headquarters, or GCHQ, here in the UK, which is the equivalent of America's NSA, National Security Agency. And her work was to translate documents and audios from Chinese into English. And on 31st January 2003, she came across an email that changed her life. What were the contents of this email? The email was from the National Security Agency, the NSA, the United States. And it was ordering British intelligence to place surveillance on 6 individuals who represented 6 different countries, but all sat at the United Nations Security Council. The purpose of this surveillance was to collect damaging information against the individuals, which was obviously going to be used for blackmail purposes. Using our language on this channel, they wanted to compile files which they would later wave at these 6 individuals so that they play ball. Now, what does surveillance mean? It means tapping their phones, following them around, and there are actually 3 African countries represented in this list of 6. I'll give you the full list in a minute. And you know the bad African habits. Actually, they're human bad habits. But we Africans tend to take it a notch higher. Let's just be honest with ourselves. You know, women manenos, and so on and so forth. The 6 countries were Angola, Cameroon, Guinea, Bulgaria, Chile, and Pakistan, who at that time all had seats in the Security Council. This was 2003. And what Americans were looking for was to legalize the invasion of the country called Iraq. And so if there was a UN resolution on that, they'd be covered. Now, every intelligence officer anywhere in the world is bound to never, ever talk about their work or any details or information they come across at work. Not even to your spouse. And in Britain, they have the Official Secrets Act, which will convict you and send you straight to prison if you ever let out any government secrets. But Catherine Gunn's conscience couldn't allow her to let this thing slide, because she knew that the world was about to go to war, where people would get killed based on false intelligence. In other words, the world was about to be misled to go into a war. Now, this story is very instructive because it tells us that before, in the history of the globe, the entire world has been misled to support one cause of action based on information that was not correct. Now already, we know with the current crisis, and this is information in the public domain, that in several instances, figures of those affected with the virus have been hiked up, falsified. And one of the ways this has been done is by taking people who have passed on from other ailments, and reporting that they actually passed on as a result of this virus. There are very many examples of that, and plenty of evidence of that. But more significantly, recently, President Donald Trump of the United States accused the state of New York of doing precisely this, hiking up the number of figures of those who had passed on. With the benefit of hindsight, it is now crystal clear that there was another reason the United States wanted to invade Iraq, but it had absolutely nothing to do with the fact that Saddam Hussein, the then leader of that country, possessed weapons of mass destruction. And so, if it is indeed true that the entire world was misled to go into a lockdown based on data that was incorrect, then it can only mean there was another reason for forcing the world to go on lockdown. There has to be a very good reason why the powerful, the ones who are making this decision, did not stop to do a very simple calculation. And that calculation would be the estimated number of people who would be casualties to the flu as compared to the estimated number of casualties from the consequences of a lockdown, like hunger, civil strife, etc., etc. The really important point here, if it is indeed being misled, it will not be the first time it has happened. Now, Catherine Gunn's story has a very fascinating end. She was arrested, and then 8 months later, charged in a court of law under the Official Secrets Act. Now, when you break a law, you've broken the law. The judge is not supposed to judge how fair or how unfair the law is. All they're supposed to do is ensure that they're satisfied you broke that law, period. And so, it looked like this young lady, because she was only 29 at the time, would go straight into jail. But something very shocking happened on the day her trial started. The prosecution refused to present any evidence against Mrs. Gunn, and the court had no option but to acquit her. Now, it is believed that the reason why they took that course of action, apart from the politics, elections were just around the corner, was that Mrs. Gunn's lawyers had asked for certain secret documents. In a court requests documents, the court gets them. Oh yes. And these documents were supposed to help the defense prove that their client, even in breaking the Official Secrets Act law, was doing it to block an illegality. Let me quickly simplify that. You can kill a man, which is against the law. That's murder. However, if it was a situation whereby you killed the man to save your own life, then you'll be acquitted, because you did it in self-defense. Something like that. Now, if the case had proceeded, the British government would have been forced to release those secret documents for public scrutiny. And so, they chose to keep their secrets rather than prosecute Mrs. Gunn. Now, Catherine Gunn is celebrated as one of the most important whistleblowers of our time. But unfortunately, her actions were not enough to stop the United States from doing what they were very determined to do, for reasons best known to themselves and, of course, the United Kingdom. Because no weapons of mass destruction were ever found. And to date, over 4,000 US soldiers have lost their lives in Iraq. Let's not even talk about the civilian casualties. And as I speak, US soldiers are still in Iraq. My hope and prayer is that we'll have a whistleblower who will come out and give us concrete evidence that somebody somewhere misled the whole world. Yeah, and of course the consequences are still unfolding. In fact, they're just starting, yeah, especially in a country like Kenya, where we must grapple with many challenges going forward, yeah, linked to economy, yeah, going down as a result of the actions that have been forced upon us, yeah, to control the pandemic. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.